the truth of the matter, and you said it so well, Dr. Vibe, there are countless Black, African/Caribbean students, international students who are here in our cities who are struggling.
It's hard to know because we don't have like the data to say what is the state of Black health before and after. And that's something that we've been advocating for, right? We need better race-based data that's done in a way that serves us, because race-based data has been collected on different groups in ways that actually cause harm, but we need it to be done with us in a way that serves us.
What is up, everybody? It is Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And that team, which I'm a part of, thankfully, since 2020 has reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers since 2020. And as always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We are broadcasting live on Sunday, December 1st. Yes, first day of the last calendar month of 2024. And what happened this afternoon where I am in Toronto? Snow, some light snow, but all around Toronto, if you go like 100 miles around Toronto radius-wise, there is lots of snow, but we're somewhat protected. But it is that time of year where, hey, snow can happen, and we've got it. Why are we here? It's Black Canada Talking, and Black Canada Talking is on every Sunday afternoon at 5 p.m. where Black Canadians bring up their points, takes, and thoughts on things happening locally, provincially, nationally, internationally. And we have our resident Black Canada Talking pundit with us today. But before we get to him, let me just do some quick things. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. Please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. We are now over almost at 1,620 subscribers. So thank you for those who have subscribed. If you haven't and you're up to it, please subscribe. Would like to get to 1,620, 600, 1,630, piece by piece. And also follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. If you want to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm a part of, please email me, dr.vibe@vibeshow.com. Also, you can watch replays of a lot of the stuff that I do online on a great platform called Indie Soup TV, which is powered by my good friend, associate Dr. Tachi out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I have about 20 to 30 content creators, and in 8 months, over 20,000 YouTube subscribers. So support independent content creation. All right, let's get him up here. Our good friend, Cesar Ndema-Moussa. What is up, Cesar? How you doing?
Hi, Dr. Vibe. Hi, everybody. Hi to all of our allies. Always a pleasure to be here. I'm okay. December 1st, we come back to that reality of being in Canada, being in North America, the cold, the winter.
Yeah.
and I can't help this reflection. We do complain very rightfully about how cold it is. But, when winter starts, I always can't help but remember, I wasn't there, but how did our ancestors do it 100, 200, 300, 400 years ago when they first came here without winter jackets? It's frightening stuff to say like that.
That's a very good perspective to put on it. That how did they do it, and we complain, right? Like, a few months ago, I was at a historical African Canadian site, and they showed where our ancestors, where some of them slept in wooden bunk beds, and in each bunk there were like 4 or 5 that would sleep in that each bunk. So 100% I hear what's going on. What's going on in your world otherwise?
Lots of travel for work. Very fortunate to do what I love and to do what basically I studied for. So that's very fortunate. But really here to give you an example, tomorrow I will be conducting 2 conversations regarding the socioeconomic realities that so many people face as we are nearing the holiday time. And where we were talking about inflation and the high cost of living. I mean, we will talk about it later on in the show, but such a thing as tariffs from Mr. Orange Man, aka 47, as you call him, aka Donald Trump. So that's something that I will definitely be addressing on Monday. Last week, I notably presented to a management team on psychological safety, a topic that we tend to forget to address, and not just in terms of, notably being, minorities, Black people, but even psychological safety on management team, senior leadership. It's all around us, but too often we tend not to talk. So absolutely. I almost want to say being EDI and even being woke becomes even more truthful nowadays.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start with our first conversation topic, and let's talk about the impact of 47's win. He is the president-elect of the United States, and the impact of his nominations. Where do you want to start on this, Cesar?
Well, very humbly, first and foremost, I was wrong. I was wrong, like many others. And I actually did apologize to an 18-year-old, an 18-year-old, we could say, white young man in a small town, because as educated as were my predictions, he wasn't right because he knew the topic regarding elections better, but he just put it like this: a lot of people are angry and Trump is feeding off that. So fear and hate, but truly, as we see, Kamala Harris didn't lose by as much as it first seemed, but she still lost. And she notably lost, or we could even say she greatly lost, because so many million people, millions people who would have voted Democrat did not come out to vote. So it's a reminder about what happens in elections. Those with extremist views tend to push harder, come out harder, versus those who will basically take things for granted or will lose hope. But now, as we are seeing, notably Donald Trump's cabinet picks, we have to face the reality that, well, for one, we should always hope that those who are our leaders succeed. However, we should never be naive as to deny listening to what those who are to lead us say in terms of the intents. And this is exactly what we're seeing with Donald Trump's cabinet picks in regards to where he made history with a first-time woman for a chief of staff at the White House. It quickly went downhill, notably with a certain Matt Gaetz, who, underage sex with underage women, notably slipping, chemicals. I mean, it's technically, it can be assimilated to rape. If you need to drug someone, not just a woman, someone, in order to have sex with them, especially if the person is minor. And now, whether it's Tulsi Gabbard, or we're talking about Hagsurf in terms of the Department of Defense, or you're talking about I think was it today or yesterday, Kash Patel at the FBI,
Yes,
a known conspirationist. Donald Trump, basically, many analysts are saying how his selection of cabinet picks is more geared towards mass TV appeal, who looks good in front of a camera, than instead of who is competent for the position. And we can see this notably with a certain Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who was disapproved by his own family and who has time and again brought forth theories. I would just remind people of what he said regarding COVID, that COVID was basically aimed at killing general white people and black people, but to cause no harm to Jewish and Chinese people. It's absolutely ridiculous, as notably many Jewish people, and especially many Chinese. But hey, Trump doesn't care about facts and truth, you know. Trump who used to would tell people as a joke, as some people said, you know, drink bleach. And yeah, some people did drink bleach, you know. So yeah, it's concerning. It's concerning because you know you think that someone who failed at a job the first time is being given a chance at the same job a second time, despite all of his antics, despite all that is known about him. But literally, America made its choice, and that choice must be respected. But that choice is basically, how can I put it? Vast majority of people who voted for Trump would never want their daughter to date a man of the character of Trump, while hoping that their son doesn't have the character of Trump. Him from fraud, lying, sexual assault, insurrection, etc. So even when people say it was better 4 years ago, it wasn't because of Trump. Trump inherited a good economy from Obama, and he's inheriting a better economy than most people like to think from Biden. And absolutely, he can be blamed for the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, but he and blame for his handling of the pandemic. 4 years later, looking at how he's picking his cabinet positions, I mean, we're going to talk about DEI/ADI later on and how so many people are like, with Trump, it's going to be the end of DEI. But hey, Trump is doing DEI. He is absolutely picking people based not on merit, but on likeliness. Guess what? That's no DEI. That's nothing else but favoritism. That's nothing else but white supremacy mindset. But that's definitely loyalty to a Supreme Court leader. It is not competency. It is absolutely not.
Okay. Before we go any further, let's say hello to Dr. Tachi, as always.
Dr. Tachi.
Yes, the powering force behind IndieSoupMedia.tv. So I want to ask, and I want to go back to the start of your commentary. What does it tell you that so many registered Democrats did not vote in this U.S. election, federal election?
It's such an interesting question because, you see, the interesting thing that a lot of people may not like to admit is that even Trump, even the Republicans, even the MAGA, and I will absolutely say this, even conservatives worldwide did not expect Trump to win. I mean, let us not forget that they had an army of lawyers ready to challenge the election results. But somehow, when they announced that they won, they're not challenging it anymore. You see what I mean? So it's a very hypocritical position to be in. In regards to those who are Democrats who didn't go out to vote, well, first and foremost, we must say this. The Biden-Harris position in regards to the Israel-Gaza/Palestine and eventually Lebanon conflict absolutely was shooting themselves in the foot. Absolutely shooting themselves in the foot. You cannot claim, and this is a general U.S. policy since 1967, aka the 6 Days War, you cannot claim to want peace while giving billions of dollars to one side. You become an accomplice of war crimes, and some people will say genocide. The other thing is simply that, well, I am not one to say that Kamala Harris was not the right pick. I think she did a good campaign. She made some mistakes, of course. Hindsight is 2020, but she made some mistakes that wouldn't necessarily have changed the results, but definitely could have had an impact. There was that Catholic dinner that she didn't attend, but Trump was there. There was an interview to Joe Rogan. there was a visit to Dearborn, Michigan to meet the Arab Muslim voters. Those are some of the mistakes. And at the same time, we have to recognize the very nature of identity politics here. If being a woman was already a challenge to her, and Trump did beat one of the most qualified person to become president of the United States in the person of Hillary Clinton. So if being a woman was already a challenge, she was also less known. And on top of that, she was a Black woman. Truthfully, nobody really cared about her Southeast Asian heritage, as notably, it was not a focus or debate. It was the fact that she was Black. But for many Democrats not to have, many Democrat voters not to have gone out and vote, it's a decision that they will have to address individually in regards to what may come out of the Trump presidency, the second Trump presidency. It's almost wishful to say for him to actually go through with his plans. Some people will say Project 2025, but to actually go through with it so that those who have voted for him to be in power, but also those who didn't vote Democrat but simply didn't vote at all, can really feel the impact of the choice. Because whether you vote for him or you choose not to vote, you basically are voting for him. And thus they deserve to feel, I mean, the man he legitimately came to power. Like, he deserves his chance he deserves his second chance to win. There are really three people that I strongly blame for Trump's win.
Okay.
And people may not see this one coming. I first blame Joe Biden.
Oh.
Yes, I first blame Joe Biden. But Dr. Vibe, I've said what I'm going to say. I've said this before on your show. I blame Joe Biden not because he didn't do anything per se. Like people are saying he should have withdrawn from the elections a year before. I mean, originally he was supposed to be a one-term candidate, a one-term president. But that's not where I blame him per se. I blame him, and I'm going to be very specific on the date, January 21st, 2021. The reason I blame him is very simple. If January 6th, 2021 had occurred with an insurrection started by a Black man, by a Muslim, by a Mexican or Latino, brown, etc., that man would have been jailed. If not January 6th at the end of the night, he would have been jailed on January 21st, soon as the new, and in brackets, white president would have taken power. We know very well that no matter the amount of followers, cult members, MAGA, or let's call it Black MAGA, this Black man would have had, whether his name sounds like Barack Hussein Obama or Demetrius Lachante, whatever, or Kofi Okuwule, that Black man would have been jailed from day one. So this is on Joe Biden's fault. The second person is on Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland absolutely failed this position because many people said, what is this man waiting to start the work, the investigation, and the arrest on Trump? The January 6th commission, in which Liz Cheney was notably a star among others, made revelations capital that will remain in history. But ultimately, the Justice Department failed to do its job. By the time it took action appointing Jack Smith, the time frame was too short and too late. And number three, the third culprit, like literally, people have to understand, this is not me being, oh, Cesar is anti-Trump or whatever. These are political investigations. No. I am telling you, the look of history, will it be 10 years or 25, but definitely 50 to 100 years and further down the road, when people will notably analyze the downfall of America, because America will fall like any empire. The Supreme Court, in its handling of immunity, it's not total, near total immunity to Trump as president, and the delay techniques which they use just as the Trump's legal team. Now, you can't blame the Trump's legal team for using delay technique. It's legal. And it's known that's what they do. But you wonder, why did others do it? So when you look at the Supreme Court, that is 6-3 conservative judges, with notably 3 that have been put there by Trump, you cannot be surprised. You don't bite or cut off the hand that feeds you.
The loyalty.
The loyalty, but really the failure of the institution. So it goes back to what I was saying. One thing, if there are 2 things that are absolutely, for all that I will always oppose someone like Trump in terms of the character and, the domestic policies, 2 things that I like about Trump. One, like Obama, he didn't bomb Africa. There are millions of Africans who have died since 2011 when Obama embarked with Tony Blair and Nicolas Sarkozy on a campaign to oust Muammar Gaddafi of Libya. And that's what basically dismembered the Sahel region, and so many Africans dying in the Mediterranean Sea, but also terrorism, including all the way down to Boko Haram and my birth country of Cameroon in the north. Okay, Trump didn't bomb Africa, but number 2, Trump has been the best tool to expose white supremacy in American politics and society, beyond white privilege. We can really talk about a Trump privilege. And his nominations only show that further. A man who rails against such a thing as EDI, literally is speaking, incompetent, unqualified people for positions to which even his own Republican-dominated Senate find themselves having to stand up to them. So for those who voted for Trump, and for those who didn't vote at all, notably for Kamala Harris, you are getting what you chose.
100%. 100%. And, if you're watching this live on replay, I'm just scrolling through all his 47's nominees for cabinet. There is only 1 Black person, and I don't think there's any Latin Americans. No, Marco Rubio. Yeah.
Rubio, yeah.
He's Cuban American. He's not Latin. Well,
it is Latin American. It is Latin American, but let's be honest. When most people think of Latin American, they're not exactly thinking of Marco, I want to be white so bad, Rubio.
Oh, ouch.
I'm just calling it what it is. I mean, some of these politicians, such as, from Mitch O'Donnell to Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, basically have been mocked, ridiculed, and insulted by Trump. But hey, the kissing the ring, the bending the knee, bending backwards, you name it, in order to still have access to power. And, that's all it is. Same for Nikki Haley. After everything that Trump said during the Republican primaries, she went on to endorse him. Like,
but she's not getting any cabinet posts. Surprise.
She doesn't deserve any. He didn't need her to win. He generally didn't need her to win. Put yourself in the mindset of the person that I can insult you, I can ridicule you, you still come to endorse me, and I still win without ever having needed you on the campaign trail. Why would I give you a position for? Who are you?
Dr. Tati says, yes, that is Marco Rubio all day. Self-hating people of color are just sad.
Exactly.
100%. Well, it's going to be interesting, as you saw from the screen there, like only 1 Black person in his cabinet. So all the people that voted for him of color, there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
So hopefully it will work out for you in your best interests. Hopefully. Hopefully. You wanted to
But you see, the thing is that many black MAGA don't care about that. But when I say they don't care, it's kind of like a cult mindset in which no matter the fact that you present, people will do mental gymnastics to keep rationalizing being part of the cult. And that's basically what Trump does. And you can't, I mean, I really am sounding like I'm a defender of Trump, but I'm not. It's basically replace Trump with anyone else. And anything that we see from Trump, we've seen this 9 years ago with a certain guy named Adolf Hitler, who was elected democratically to the Reichstag in Germany. People will do a lot of mental gymnastics to keep access to power and to feel like they're part of the winning group, despite all the facts and the evidences and even the jurisprudence, the antecedents of what is coming to them. It's like I told so many people, how can you basically be black and vote for a person? I'm not saying because you're black, therefore vote for Kamala Harris. But I'm saying, how can you be black and literally choose to vote for a man who was calling for the execution of 5 innocent black people and never apologized for it? And has X amount of antics of racism, and for a woman to vote for a man who has X amount of antecedents of sexism, misogyny, including rape, cheating on his pregnant wife, etc., etc. So
then let me ask a little bit further then, Cesar. What do you feel about the strong support that 47 got from white men, white women, and Latin men?
That's a very interesting question. So there is a certain dynamic that's at play here. So for one, we cannot be surprised that he got so many votes from white men, as the nature of white supremacy and power makes it that people are voting in terms of a man such as Donald Trump who looks like them, who looks like the dad. Now, when you look at, for example, the white woman, and this is, people say it's a mistake that the Kamala Harris campaign did, aka they should have focused more on the topics such as of economy and less regarding identities such as gender. Well, that's only relatively true to the fact that the Trump campaign has been so grossly misogynistic towards Kamala Harris, but also women as a whole, notably due to the person at the forefront, aka Donald Trump. And this is part of the reason why, notably, you can't be surprised that a man who, despite being convicted of, sexual assault, becomes president. He would pick for attorney general a man who has been investigated for what some would call pedophilia. It basically, tell me who you walk with, I tell you who you are. But for these women, it's simply because so many white women, I'm not saying each individual, but as a group, white women are not the allies of social progress. No, they're not. And I will give a very interesting fact here. Studies in the 19th century do confirm that 1/3 of slave owners were white women. Studies confirmed 100 years later that those who most benefited from affirmative action, contrarily to popular beliefs, as affirmative action, you're thinking black people, those who most benefited from affirmative action have been women, notably through second wave feminism. It is just factually true, notably when you look at the intersectionalities of race, gender, and socioeconomic statuses in the US, just as in Canada, to only speak of these two countries. But if you look across the Western world, since the 60s, what identity has most benefited from social progress? It has been white women. And yet, when has come time to stand next to the Black woman, the indigenous woman, the LGBT community, and particularly trans people. It has not been white women as a group. I'm not talking individual. As individual, we could talk about um, I'm forgetting her first name, but the lady, the white woman who wrote White Fragility, Robin DiAngelo, in brackets, the Black sister, who did a lot of the work behind that book, hasn't been credited for it. But Robin DiAngelo, as an individual, absolutely, yes, this is an ally. But in reality, as a group, white women have not been on the side of marginalized identities. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They benefit the most after white men, of course, they benefit the most from the maintaining of white supremacy and the hierarchical society.
Mm. Mm. And what
And,
about
and in regards to Latinos, I
okay?
will not forget.
Yeah.
I will tell you exactly what will happen. So I've got to get my dates straight here. So in regards to Latinos, one of the things that I'm not the only one to say that this is bound to happen is that we are now in 2024. One of the processes of white supremacy to maintain itself is basically adherence to the white group. 100 years ago, Southern Italians, Irish, and Jewish people were not considered white. This is why anyone who looks up to the founders of the NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, they will be shocked to notice white people, today we say white, but then Jewish people. So they were not considered white. They became considered white. White Jewish people became considered white in America between the end of World War II and 1967, early 70s, aka the 6-Day War, in which after which America started to fund Israel, not only militarily but also economically. That's how Jewish people entered whiteness as a group. End of World War II, 1967, 6-Day War. So what happens here is that that's the same thing that will happen with Latinos. Marco Rubio today, we're talking about Latino. 25 years from now, Marco Rubio, that would be a white person. That would be a white person. And if we truly are honest, below the USA, so outside of Canada and the USA, for the rest of the Americas, a person such as Marco Rubio is a white man. It's a white man. That's why there is a term such as Afro-Latinos, indigenous Latinos, aka indigenous who speak Spanish. Jennifer Lopez. Those are white people. White people. They just happen to be of a linguistic and cultural background, which is Spanish, or in the case of Brazil, from Portugal. But those are white people. That's what it is. So they will be entered into whiteness, and it notably explain why those who are already here would come to espouse more conservative views. And this is very similar to also what happened with Indians, by the way. Nikki Haley, we removed that name at the bottom of the screen. Anyone looking at that screen will say, well, that's a white woman. How is that not a white woman? Because she's Indian. Indian is not a race. Cuban is not a race. Puerto Rican or Mexican is not a race. Those are nationalities. Nikki Haley is a white woman. Those people will be entered into whiteness as a racial group, as minorities, and notably visible minorities number increase in America and the Western world. This is why when they're banning abortions or making it so much difficult for abortions to occur, it's not for the Black woman that they want to make it difficult. Or she can abort as many times as she wants. The more, the better. It's not for indigenous women. It's not for the Arab Muslim woman. It's for the white Christian woman of European descent, and by extension, white. That's just what it is.
I know we went a little bit long on this, but I actually want to ask you one more conversation topic on this. What about before this election, a lot of African Americans, especially African American women, thought they had alliance with Latin Americans. Did that ever exist? Does it exist? What's the future of that?
That basically a lot of Black Americans, the alliances with Latino Americans. It's not the 70s anymore. It's not the 70s anymore. It's not the 60s. It's not the times in which, it's not the time. I mean, even when we look at, let's just go back, what is it? Let's just go back to when the Supreme Court broke affirmative action because of Asian students claiming it's unfair to them. It's not the 70s where you can literally Google yellow power standing with Black power. When Chinese, aka yellow people, to use the racial terminology, stood in solidarity with Black people. So this is one of the great traits in terms of white supremacy, is that it leads, and it's not just white supremacy, any ideology of oppression that comes to dominate a society leads to those who are marginalized to divide and fight among one another, to have a seat at the table, to basically eat the crumbs. It's kind of the logic of crabs in a barrel. Crabs should not even be in a barrel. It's not that crabs should not be fighting and pulling each other down. No, crabs shouldn't even be in a barrel. The barrel is a system. And who benefits from the system? The fishermen. It's the same logic as, the sheep that fears the wolf, but ultimately, who's more likely to eat the sheep? It's not the wolf. It's a sheep herder.
Well said. Okay, we will take our break, and then when we come back, 45 again, I say 47 is now looking at putting tariffs not only on Canada and Mexico, but BRICS nations. So we're going to talk about that. Also want to just put up some comments. Dr. Tachi says that's what they get. Good for them. And Mignon Cam says, yes, that argument and divide is big in the disabled community, and they make 27% of the Canadian population. Also, just wanted to put up, Cesar had mentioned the book White Fragility. This is the full title. We'll just bring it up right here, right now. Title of the book, White Fragility, Why Is It So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism, by Dr. Robin DiAngelo, and forwarded by Professor Michael Eric Dyson. So if you want to check out a very interesting book, written a few years ago, but still very relevant today in the world. It was written back in 2018. So definitely, if you want to take a look at it, please check it out. The title is there, and I'll probably put it in the comment section. But what we're going to do is take a quick break, come back, and we got some more stuff to talk about. Now get in the world of economics. Lots of stuff going on in economics before 47 hits the trail. So we'll be back in about, I'm going to decide how long we're going to be awake for. Let's see.
Yo, what's going on, everyone? My name's David Archer, anti-racist psychotherapist from Montreal, Canada. And I wanted to take a moment to give a special shout out to Dr. Vibe and the Dr. Vibe Show. If you're looking for the best conversations, even if you're looking for someone who could help to support you and help you to improve your outlook, the way how you're thinking about things, and cares about the culture, look no further. Go and Google Dr. Vibe, the Dr. Vibe Show, and you're going to find the man of the hour. All right? So, many blessings. Take care. Peace.
All right, David Archer, thank you so much for sharing with us as always. And we are on Black Canada Talking today, live on December 1st. Cesar Ndema-Moussa is laying down some great information and thought process. So let's talk about our next conversation piece. Let me just, I'm going to change something here because I don't want to put this there. I'm going to do this here. Put it here, get a little bit of, okay. So 47 threatens 25% tariff on products from Canada and Mexico and 100% tariff on BRICS nations. Cesar, what are your thoughts?
You should take what someone tells you about themselves as seriously as they say it. People should take Trump seriously to his word. However, there are certain realities, notably economic and geopolitical, that make this to be more of, to use Trump's language, the art of the deal, like a negotiation strategy more than a likely possibility. And the reason for this being that uh, NAFTA, so since NAFTA, Bill Clinton, etc., um, NAFTA basically has so intertwined the economies of Canada, the USA, and Mexico that such a tariff would be, uh, from what I read, from what I understand, because I don't want to cause any confusion. I am not an, but from what I read and understand, it would have catastrophic impacts upon the economies of those countries, including of the United States themselves. As notably during the campaign, I think people can remember how even Kamala Harris, in her debate against Donald Trump, had mentioned herself that economists who reviewed his plans have addressed Trump's plan that it will be catastrophic to the U.S. economy. A 25% tariff basically would mean that an increase, a hike, would be paid by the customers. And when you look at, for example, in the case of Canada and the US, the three main sectors would basically be oil and gas, transportation, automobiles, notably, and manufacturing. How many people are willing to pay 25% more? Notably, always we talk about life already being expensive. We talk about inflation. We talk about rising prices while salaries are not increasing. I mean, we talk about rent, mortgage, etc., etc. But truly, this is more, if you ask me, a strategy, notably to address not just border security, but to really basically pander to the MAGA base. Let us be honest. 2016, build the wall and Mexico is going to pay, right? We know what happened with that. At the same time, there is an issue regarding China and fentanyl. For those who do not know, you will find a lot of articles, notably from The Economist. So nobody would claim The Economist is a left-wing journal, but I use notably these examples when training senior leaders and public servants on EDI. Most of the fentanyl comes from China, but very much as a response to what the Western world has done to China in the 19th century regarding the opium wars, which led to the death of millions of Chinese. So these are consequences of what the past still affecting us in the present. Further to that, when we talk about 100% tariffs regarding the BRICS, when you look at the number of countries that are joining the BRICS, so Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, but you count on the number of countries that are joining, notably Saudi Arabia, absolutely this would be more of a negative impact upon the United States in order to keep the fiat system of the US dollar as the default exchange currency for goods in the world. That is imperialism. That's what it is. Imperialism backed by the US Navy bases. Someone can just look at how many US bases are around Iran. You see, that would give you an idea. Please don't get me wrong. I am not advocating here for Chinese bases in Mexico. We know it won't happen in Canada, but that's not what I'm saying. I mean, we don't want World War III. But at the same time, let us not be hypocritical to pretend that the US dollar is necessarily a money for peace when you have American bases, just like Roman forts, all around so many other countries. I mean, I'm born in Africa. There is such a thing as AFCOM, Africa Command. Has anyone in the USA ever seen an African base, African soldiers, Africans training American in the Navy SEALs, training the Marines? So it's imperialism through the tool of economics, but the world has changed. And Donald Trump, in his notion of the art of the deal, and it's not even him who really wrote that book, for those who don't know, is also the man that people should not forget went bankrupt, was 4 or 6 times, lost X amount number of casinos, and these notions of tariffs for him, the stock market, but even the holders of U.S. Treasury bonds, just as allies themselves, are not going to respond so well to this strategy, which he has done before, and again, before in 2018, but again, it was the same. I mean, you look at how interdependent Canadian and American economies are. You look at notably steel, like 25% tax, it becomes ridiculous, ridiculous, aka impossible to do business. It becomes at a loss. One good thing is that it will force Canada, just as Mexico, to be more, to grow more of their own products, to be less dependent on America, but also to look for more partners. Mexico, has all of South America, all of Latin America, and China, just as Russia, India, other BRICS nations, they would absolutely welcome a cheap labor force that Mexico provide. I'm not sure a lot of the MAGA white voters, I'm wrong signal. I should be showing this signal. I'm not sure a lot of the MAGA white voters are willing to go work at a cheap wage in agriculture and
good
go
point.
do the
It's a good point.
and even to go do the cleaning for Donald Trump offices, because Donald Trump uses cheap labor. I mean, let me remind our people, notably those who voted for Trump, something very factual here. The Trump Bible is not made in America. It's made in China. Let that sink in. The Trump's Bible is made in China, my friends. Let that sink in. Make America great again, aka make China richer always.
So, the president of your fan club, Michelle Baptiste, says greetings and salutations.
Hello, Michelle.
And Minion Cam says the Texas minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. Can you let me ask you, just say these tariffs go through, what economic chaos will there be in the world?
Well, people will have to tighten the belt. People would have to tighten the belt, starting in Canada and Mexico. But the world has changed. When you look at, for example, Russia, despite all the sanctions that were brought on Russia since 2022 invasion of Ukraine, Putin has just diverted a lot of the economies that he deals with, notably with China, India, etc. When you look at, for Africa, as we are Black people in the Caribbean, this would actually be a good thing. The hard times that it would create would help to foster and to force an improvement on the development of economic management of these countries. Donald Trump is basically pushing an isolationist or protectionist measure, which has already been done before in the United States, notably through the 1920s, 1930s, aka we don't want to deal with Europe until December 7, 1941, aka Pearl Harbor, forced America to enter World War II. And as such, its economies becoming more geared towards the war, That's what led America to truly become the global hegemony it became, notably less impacted, I mean, borderline not even impacted by World War II. Here, as we are looking at it, 80 to 90 years later, the world has changed. Like, people are not so isolated as someone like Donald Trump may like to think, looking at the world in terms of civilizational block, aka the white side, the yellow side, the black side, aka no. When you look at a country such as Brazil, where the latest census speaks to over 50% of the population claiming black identity, and I'm talking Brazilian blonde hair, blue eyes, telling you that effectively they're black, and they have either a parent or a grandparent who are dark-skinned black. More and more talks have occurred, notably in regards to the African Union and development of Africa, that we need more Brazil and we need less America. More and more talks are developing. So I'll give you an example here. Among the Bantu countries, aka Central Africa, we need more interstate economic cooperation, kind of like the European Union, than to rely on importations from the West. This measure would literally foster and force these governments to become less dependent of the West and more in solidarity of one another, but notably to develop their own economies and by extension, improve the socioeconomic realities. Two good examples. I mean, I gave three good examples. Rwanda, Botswana, the Seychelles. Three countries people are not used to hearing in these conversations. But when you also add other impacts such as climate change and the devastations that it causes in terms of human lives, but also in terms of economies, and then you add technology in regards to the advances of AI, artificial intelligence, this great mega measure that many are applauding, like, yeah, America is back and blah, blah. It would literally be America shooting itself in the foot. This is not the reality of the world. This is a 80, 90-year-old measure policy that also, in terms of, oh my gosh, because I'm thinking in French here, I'm going to say the International Tribunal of Commerce, I think that's the name, could be challenged directly as being so anti-liberal, aka anti-promotion of free trade. And again, I'm not an economist. I'm just providing my opinions.
Yeah.
Don't go put money in the stock market based on whatever I said.
Well, this will be an ongoing story in regards to this, because if this comes down, everyone's going to get a lot of people are going to get hit globally, and it'll just, I think, question America's status in the world by the average everyday person, saying America may not help its image, though a lot of people in the world not a big fan of 47 as it is. Now they're going to say, well, they voted for him, so they're going to align him and the Americans to further probably jeopardize their status as being a favorable member of the world.
Let me give one last example.
Sure.
When you're talking about America's image and we're talking about economics and geopolitics, I invite people to look up something that happened in the 50s, the banana wars, when America went to war over the price of the commodity known as banana in the stock market, and the consequences, unintended, unforeseen, of the banana wars. This is on an economic level what too often America has done, aka let's give the weapons to this insurgent movement for regime change, and then a couple of years later, oh, whoa, these are the Ayatollahs now. Oh, these are the Taliban now. Oh, these are Noriega and the drug barons from South America. So that's what I mean by shooting itself in the foot. Don't get me wrong. This is not me being anti-Trump.
All right.
Telling you what it is.
Well, again, we will continue to look at this story and provide lens on it because, again, it's just starting, and the next at least 4 years are going to be a nonstop ride. And yes, even though we're here on Black Canada talking, this impacts Black Canadians.
Absolutely.
100%. And another thing that could potentially impact Black Canadians is another thing that came down in the United States this week. Walmart, the world's biggest retailer, will curb diversity efforts in the U.S. And Cesar is very involved, if you don't know, in the whole DEI world. So would love to get your takes on this, Cesar.
Well, let us be real. 4 years ago, Brother George Floyd dying, and so many organizations, corporations talking about, in the US, people say DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. I personally prefer EDI, equity, diversity, and inclusivity. But a lot of corporations making big promises and, lots of hiring of DEI professionals and, what was it again? Implicit bias training, etc., etc. But us Black activists, we knew this was a short window of progress. We knew it wouldn't last. We knew the white lash was coming because this is what has happened before. Let us be honest. Kamala Harris herself was on record reminding Joe Biden that he was against school desegregation. And that was in the 70s. Not even in the 50s in terms of Ruby Bridges. No, in the 70s. So it is very much that the pressure from conservative militants upon these corporations is leading them to want to cut diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. But the realities of the market, notably as this topic is one that's very cyclical, the realities of the market will catch on to them. If we want to take a good example here, and I can agree with some of the critics that sometimes Disney does a little bit too much or goes a little bit too woke, as people say it. Well, first of all, I don't like when people say woke. It's an insult to our glorious African-American ancestors who came up with the term woke 100 years ago in regards to remaining aware and critical of the government's effort to restrict people's liberties and prevent social progress. Now is a great time to be woke again during Biden's presidency, but notably during Trump's first presidency, and furthermore now. We had to be woke during Obama's presidency, aka Black Lives Matter came during Obama's presidency. But now, furthermore, we will be that. And here, what you end up having, these corporations, they're literally just pandering to conservatives' efforts to whitewash the corporate sector, to eliminate anything and everything that would lead to them having any type of reflection regarding what Robin DiAngelo and many others would call white privilege, because they don't want to hear uncomfortable truth. I am not so worried. I'm saying this with respect to DEI professionals in the United States who have lost employment, because yes, there have been some real consequences. But I'm not so worried because this is all part of the same conversation as the banning of abortion, aka the revoking of Roe versus Wade. I am not so worried because this is also part of the same conversation as we were just having regarding tariffs. And I'm also not so worried because it's also part of the previous conversation, Trump's incompetent, unqualified picks. This is just a further step in creating a backlash to the white lash, where people will become hurt and will effectively be more present on the street and basically have a renewal of the spirit of the 60s and 70s towards social progress. It will be a short, hard time. When I say short, it can be only 4 years. It can be more than 4 years, but it will be that necessary time for people to put back their boots, strap them up, pick up the sign, go on the street to protest, but not just protest on the street. In 2 years from now in the US, you will have the primaries. People will vote. People will take action. But when I say vote, voting for you city hall councilors, for the mayor, for the school board trustees and superintendents, voting for the sheriffs. Now is indeed a time to be woke. There is a war on DEI in the US, on EDI in Canada. It is a war, truly, on social progress, notably brought forward by our glorious African American ancestors from 100 years ago, pushed forward by our civil rights leaders, notably behind me, by our anti-apartheid leaders, notably pushed forward by our leaders, Black leaders in culture, who broke barriers, who stood up their ground. That's what this is. And as such, notably as professionals in this 21st century of information, of knowledge, of STEM, it is indeed a beautiful time to be woke. And I tell it to people, I'm not woke, aka far left. I am woke in the line of my ancestors, my glorious African American, African Caribbean, African ancestors. This is what this is.
All right. Dr. Tachi says many of these companies' DEI efforts are performative at best. Minion Cam says Ontario made a law to be disability accessible by 2025. They are nowhere near that target. So they gave disabled community a carrot. The same with moving DEI. I also want to bring that to your attention, so I'll get your thoughts on this. There's an article here in Forbes. It says, and it's called Walmart Pulls Back on DEI. Could we see more competitive companies adopting MEI? And I'll just show this here. I'll just read a paragraph from this article. If you're watching live on the replay, you can see it on your screen. If not, you can hear it on the replay. A new approach to hiring and workplace diversity is gaining traction across corporate America, challenging the long-standing DEI initiatives. This emerging movement advocates a system called, quote, dubbed, quote, merit, excellence, and intelligence, unquote, which emphasizes selecting candidates based solely on their qualifications, abilities, and intelligence. Proponents argue that MEI offers a more equitable and effective method of building high-performing teams, moving away from demographic considerations to focus exclusively on individual merit. What are your thoughts on that?
What was the difference of what they're saying now versus what it was before the 2010s and before? This is just regular white-dominated society in which you end up having racial bias, gender biases, religious biases, aka white Christian male of European descent. Of course not. But the person who in the latest American campaign for president was attacking DEI literally is making cabinet picks that they don't have the merit, they don't have the excellence, and they don't have the intelligence for the position to which they're being picked for. Right there, you can already see a failure there. Meanwhile, when you look at corporations and organizations, their own statistics speaks of disproportionalities and disparities, which are proven further by the failure of merit, excellence, and intelligence. If you truly do have merit, excellence, and intelligence, you wouldn't have disproportionalities and disparities. Disproportionalities in terms of quantitative data and disparities in regards to qualitative data, aka service. MEI sounds absolutely beautiful and basically should be what it is. But this is a false claim because those who attack DEI like to paint DEI as just hiring for Black, Indigenous, women, LGBTQ people. They don't even think about people with mental health. So they claim MEI as if That was not the claim that is basically the rule of the land. And yet, the very statistics show the opposite. They like to think DI is about quota hiring. Who can possibly think that I got my career simply because I'm black? Who can possibly think that there is a DI person who got the career simply because they're black? Who can think that a black teacher became a teacher simply because they're black? Time and again, as black people, we are told to work 2 to 5 times harder, notably in order to combat the perceptions and the nature of oppression against us. So, time and again, no, this is just a ruse. It's a coward ruse, but we know we expected that. It's the white lash. It's the typical ways by which systems of oppression will try and do anything and everything in order to stay in power. I will give you a very quick example for those who may want to be in denial. When social media came, religious organizations opposed it because of the corruption it could create, notably among young people and the influences of the devil. Look at us in 2024. Show me what religious organization is done on social media trying to attract members, try to keep members. That's all it is. It's the same thing. It's only the same thing.
I know you're probably short on time because you got to take care of the lady house. I was going to read a little bit more, a little statement from a gentleman who's practicing MEI. I don't know if you want to hear what he had to say, but okay, all right, no problem. So I'm going to continue in this article that was in Forbes magazine, and he states his case for MEI. So let me just put up on the screen for everybody here. Okay, so Alexander Wang, CEO of Scale AI, a cloud-based training and validation solutions company primarily for machine learning and artificial intelligence applications, announced in June that he was codifying his startup's MEI hiring policy, which has garnered praise from tech leaders like Elon Musk, but has also sparked debate about the role of diversity in hiring practices. In a company blog post, Wang wrote, okay, quote, "We hire only the best person for the job. We seek out and demand excellence, and we unapologetically, prefer people who are very smart. That's why this is the time to codify a hiring principle that I consider crucial to our success. Scale is a meritocracy, and we must always remain one," unquote, he added. He added, quote, "We treat everyone as an individual. We do not unfairly stereotype, tokenize, or otherwise treat anyone as a member of a demographic group rather than as an individual," unquote. Wang argued that meritocracy and diversity are not diametrically opposed, stating, quote, "There is a mistaken belief that meritocracy somehow conflicts with diversity. I strongly disagree. No group has a monopoly on excellence. A hiring process based on merit will naturally yield a variety of backgrounds, perspectives, and ideas. Achieving this requires casting a wide net for talent and then objectively selecting the best without bias in any direction. We will not pick winners and losers based on someone being right or wrong, race, gender, and so on. It should be needless to say, and yet it needs to be saying, doing so would be racist and sexist, not to mention illegal," unquote. While just one last paragraph. This is saying, while traditional DI practice often aim to increase representation of historically unrepresented groups, MEI focuses solely on individual qualifications without explicit diversity targets. Sorry, I'm done. Go ahead.
Well, I hope Mr. Wang will address the very documented facts about biases in AI, aka artificial intelligence, as you see, that's the first obvious part of it. And second of all, meritocracy, I remind. Look, let me put it to you in perspective here. It was very nice what he said. Well, it was eloquent, but he's talking to the wrong person here. Meritocracy is the norm in terms of humans. We are in the 21st century. I literally can take you back to about the 5th century before Common Era, about 2,500 years ago. How do you think, and even before that, how do you think In ancient China, ancient Babylon, in Kemet, ancient Pharaonic Egypt, just as in Sumer, but even in the Maya and Inca societies of a few centuries ago, was it not meritocracy? I mean, this is make promotion great again. But time and again, what would happen in regards to meritocracy, human biases tend to come at the forefront. And with that comes the racism, the sexism, and the other oppressive ideologies that maintain the system in place while losing talent. I mean, there would have been no Black Wall Street if meritocracy was really the norm. Discriminated for being Black, just as women were discriminated for being women. 1974, when women basically got the right to have their own bank accounts. Meritocracy is part of DEI. You don't get the job just simply because you check mark Black. I mean, Robin DiAngelo, last I checked, she's not a Black woman. I mean, it sounds nice, but this is part of the white lash. This is part of, the anger of so many people with white fragility. And earlier today, I was literally confronting a friend of mine, friend of 20 years. We met in university, in the same class. He's a lawyer, and he suffers of white fragility. And he's a lawyer. So it's not about being educated and the excellence and all that. His white fragility basically makes it, like I told him, I'm like, it's funny how you don't understand when the topic is about Black people, but when it's about Jewish people, suddenly you have a lot of respect and a lot of understanding. So it's part of the white lash. We saw it coming. We expected it. And we will deal with it. It will be hard for some time, but this is a great time to be woke. Not woke, aka far left liberals. Woke in the logic of our ancestors, in the continuation of the struggle for justice and dignity for Black people, from our glorious African American ancestors to civil rights, to desegregation, to decolonization, to anti-apartheid. I can go on and on and on. Even Black Lives Matter, the global movement, not the organization, the global movement. It's a continuation. The struggle is not done. The struggle never ends. We have just reached now a new layer, and we shall be standing.
All right, we will end it up on that. Mignon Cam has a comment. Mental health and disabilities are always the last in conversations for social change.
Unfortunately, but very true.
All right, and that is it. As always, want to thank Cesar for hanging out with us. As always, you can email him at present@rootsandculturecanada.com. Facebook's, he's at Cesar Remy Emery. Cesar, as always, want to say thank you for taking the time to hang out with us today and always making our lives better. As always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourself grace. All right, take care. All right, that is it for today. Another epic conversation. And Dr. Tachi says, great conversation. Thank you. You'll see some of it on Dr. Tachi's and company's platforms called Indie Soup Media. All right, so let's end it off here. As always, let's do the simple thing. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Get to the next plateau, I think, of 1,620 YouTube subscribers. Far from Dr. Tachi's, but she sets a high bar, but we're getting there. Like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And please share it out. Share it with other people. Tell them about the great conversations we have. To advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm on, please email me, dr.vibe@thedrbeshow.com. And you can watch replays of this epic conversation on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the Dr. Vibe Show at the dr.vibe@thedrbeshow.com. So this is how we ended off. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller, get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And don't just manage your time, manage your energy. God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith and walk good.